Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Boxing Social podcast in association with Betfred. Make sure you like, share and subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest boxing news and views. Today I am delighted to be joined by former Cruiserweight world champion Enzo Maccarinelli here in Swansea. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks Ali. Thanks for coming down.
Thanks for having me. So now we're in one of your gyms. There is two, which you're sort of running nowadays. We'll go on to what you're doing nowadays in a bit, but we're going to just start off looking back at your career, what you achieved in boxing, sort of how it started. So we'll start off, with how you first got into boxing and what your memories are of starting off in the boxing gym.
My dad always had a gym, so I actually think him and my mother made me to box. I think he always wanted a fighter. I got brothers as well, but I was the one he wanted to get it done. I remember coming up here as a youngster. I remember just not like training, but running around, being a nuisance, getting kicked up the ass by all the older boys, get up my way. And I remember my brother sparring my father. I was only about 6, so that's my first proper memory. I was about 6 in a gym, and my dad and my father, my dad and my brother were sparring, and my brother dropped my dad with a body shot, and he said something to him, and obviously I didn't know what he said. So years later he told me, that's for all the hidings you give me when I was younger. So I was like, that's my first boxing memory.
Was it in this gym?
Yeah, it was. This gym has been, I think my dad had it, well, now people 35 years, so it's been it's pretty much, we've kept it the same, but we've had to modify a little bit, so otherwise it'll fall down. But no, it's been my home, and I like to call it my home because I've spent more time here than anywhere for nearly 35 years.
How old were you when you sort of started taking boxing seriously?
About 10. My dad was my trainer. I had a gentleman called Nigel Page, who Barry McGuigan would know very well. I think he gave Barry his hardest fight in the amateurs. Nigel, a lovely guy, not with us anymore. I had another guy, Derek, and they all believed in me. And between the three of them, Page would have me up here Christmas Day when I was the age of 10. I still believed in Santa at that time, and he had me up here. Then Derek would have me on Boxing Day. Then my dad would have me the next day, and then I wasn't able to take it lightly. I had to do everything serious. I had to do everything. 10 years of age, I'm doing 3-mile runs in the rain. So from a young age, I was sort of bad word to use, but groomed to fight.
Did you, from that age, and you said you were taking it seriously, did you always know that it was what you wanted to do, what you were going to be doing? Was there any other interest you had?
Obviously I played football at the age of 10. It was just getting on with it. I loved to fight. I always did. I had this competitive attitude, even in school. I always loved to fight, and I think I first thought I'm a little bit better than what people say I am or what I think I am. I sparred a professional, Kerry Farrell, at the age of 12, and I held my own. Years later, he told me I actually buzzed him at the age of 12. So, but I knew then, I was strong, I was fit, and it's something I love to do. I just love to fight.
What are your memories from the sort of amateur days, competing as a youngster, and then the sort of decision then to go pro?
Well, as an amateur, I remember winning a Welsh title at 11. We weren't allowed to enter to lose 11, so I won my first Welsh title at 11. And I was chuffed, I'm champion of my country. But then I said to myself, right, I want to be British champion next year. So next year I won the Welsh again, and then I won the British. I went up to Derby, the assembly rooms in Derby. It was only my 7th fight. I was in the British Championships, in the finals, and 3 of them fights were to get to the final, and I won it. And it was just great. Then I wanted something else. But when I started again, when I hit 13, 14, 15, I was knocking kids out cold. And I mean, a 13-year-old boy knocking another kid out spark cold. It must be quite frightening for his parents. So, I couldn't get a lot of fights. So at the age of 15, I took a break. I put a lot of weight on. I was obviously drinking, smoking a bit of weed with the boys and stuff like that, and still coming up to the gym now and again, but I weren't serious at all. Put a lot of weight on. I think I went up to about 16.5, 17 stone, just fat, just enjoying the nights. I knew most of the doormen in town, so I was getting in as a 15, 16 year old. I was going to town on a Friday and a Saturday when my mother thought I was at my friend's house. I just, for 2 years, that's all I done. I just drunk, I ate rubbish, smoked a bit of blow, and just partied.
Did you think you'd go back to boxing at that point?
I don't know. At the time, I was just enjoying life and just being a tearaway. And when I was 16 and a half, like I said, I'd still been training. My dad arranged me to spar Nicky Piper. Nicky Piper at the time, he was fighting Dariusz Michalczewski for the world light heavyweight title, I think it was. And I was only 16, and I went up there, and I held my own. He'll say he got the better of me, he didn't, but it was a good spar, and I felt good, so I started taking it a bit more seriously. I started running in the mornings, and then at the age of 17, a month after my 17th birthday, my dad got me a fight, and the guy's name was Leighton Morgan. He went on to win a TV show, Britain's Toughest Man, with Phil Mitchell and stuff like that. But he was, at the time, he was the top dog. I think he knocked everyone out in Wales. He went to the British, and I think he lost in the final. And they were looking for a heavyweight. And I said to my dad, look, we need a heavyweight. He said, yeah, Enzo. No, he said, we want an open class heavyweight. He said, yeah, Enzo. He said, no, Mario, Enzo hasn't boxed for 2 years. He's only 17, this boy's 23, he's a killer. He said, nah, Enzo, fight him, no problem at all. So we get there, and guessing the change rooms, and there was an article in the paper, and it was like all the local club shows, there was a little article in the paper. Enzo, brilliant schoolboy, NABC, British champion, hadn't boxed for 2 years. Don't expect too much of him tonight. I think his father's crazy, putting him in there. And all I remember my dad saying to me, we'll show on my boy. So as it happens, I knocked him spark cold in the first round. Literally, we just had a tear up and spark cold. So then I boxed in Scotland. I was supposed to box the Scottish heavyweight champion. He didn't turn up, so I ended up boxing the super heavyweight champion. I knocked him out in the first round. Then I boxed a boy called Darren Morgan. Chisora's gone reckless. It's the hardest punch you've ever faced. He was 23 stone, I was 13 stone 10. That's all I weighed. He got in the ring. I remember looking at my dad saying, what are you doing? He said, you'll be alright, no problem. I knocked him out first round. But then he joined us, and he won a Four Nations gold medal with an 11-second knockout. Wicked fight. I just didn't train. So I think I only had 7 senior fights, 7 wins, 7 first round knockouts. And then, unfortunately, in Wales at the time, there was, I don't know if you remember, it was an ABF and an ABA. It was a split, but only the ABA boys were allowed to go to any games, Commonwealth, things like that. So I got offered £1,500 a month to join another gym and box in the ABA. And obviously, because it was my dad's gym, I wouldn't do it. I wanted to, but I just wouldn't do it. So the only thing for me was to turn professional. I actually got my license at 18 years of age. So I hadn't boxed for 2 years. I come back a year, I had 6 fights, and I was professional.
Did you sort of have the trust in your dad? It sounded like your dad was the one who just knew you. He knew you could do it. He had the faith in you almost before you did. Yeah,
he did. He totally did. It was him, Nigel Page, Derek, my brother Valo. They were the ones who always told me straight. You know, if I'd done something wrong, they would tell me. There was no pussyfooting round. There was no, oh, well done, boy, well done. If I was shit, they tell me I was shit. And that's the way it was. But my dad really believed in me. He always said everyone. And it was, I think I was 17, and we went to watch Calzaghe, and I can't think we was up in Cardiff, in a motor point, or CIA, I think it was at the time. And as we walked in, Sky Sports were there, and they were interviewing people. They didn't have a clue who I was, obviously didn't have a clue who my dad was. And Ed Robinson from Sky, he was there. And I remember he interviewed my dad about the fight, and he said about the fight with Calzaghe. He said, oh, keep an eye on this boy, he's going to be a world champion. So I'd like to get that back off Ed to actually see it, because I remember it happening. So he 100% knew I would be a world champion.
So turning pro, a lot of things changed then once you turned pro. What sort of happened in terms of coaching, where you were training, and the sort of direction there once you actually turned pro?
I signed with a company called Just Players. They were just new at the time. They wanted to get into boxing. With Nicky Piper at the forefront of it all. And obviously, he's seen how good I was at that young age, and he's seen something in me. So I trained with Nicky's old trainer, Charlie. I still come up here now and again, but most of the time was with Charlie. I was still working as a YTS bricklayer, so I was having to get up in the mornings, go running. I think 5 o'clock, go running, get dropped to work at 8 o'clock, finish at 5, get travelled up to Cardiff by 6:30, train, finish at 8, get home by 9. I used to do that every single day. It was hard, but that's what I wanted. And it was a gym in Cardiff, Penarth. That was most of the time I trained, but I still trained here. I still come up here, help my dad with the kids. I've always had a part in the amateur scene, so it was hard, but I enjoyed it.
Was that a hard change? The fact that because in the amateurs you had the opportunity to go to another club, not train alongside your dad, but was that hard then when you had to make the decision not to?
Not really, because I knew my dad was an amateur coach. Even though he knew what he was on about, he was still an amateur coach. So we wanted to try. And my dad sort of pushed me towards him. He was always there. He used to take, obviously, because I couldn't drive, he used to take me up on the door. He used to take me up there and things like that. And it was just mad. But no, I enjoyed it. I had a lot of people help me. My brother. He's been a big factor in my life as well. He's not with us anymore, but he played a massive part in keeping me grounded, got me out of a lot of trouble. So,
turning pro such a young age, the sort of first few fights, first 3 fights wins. Your first defeat came in your 4th fight, I believe. How was that sort of going through it? You were still young. You had this amazing sort of final experience as an amateur, all the first round knockouts, and then you turn pro, 3 great wins and then a defeat. What's sort of going on in your mind at that point?
Well, I had my first fight, Paul Bonson, good journeyman. I thought I'd blow him away, and I couldn't. Just clever. I just realised then they'd done all go down so easy. Then I boxed a boy Mark Williams in Merthyr. I knocked him out 35 seconds. Then I boxed Nigel Rafferty, who I think he was like one of the tough journeymen, and I ended up stopping him in 3 rounds. So I started showing people I got something. But they were trying to build me up too quickly in Swansea, and I was still 19, just turned 19. And I remember training. I never sacrificed my training. But the night before I boxed, Lee Swaby, his name was. The night before I boxed, there's a picture of me in town drinking beer. I didn't have many, but I was out. The night before the fight, I was out. I just didn't care. I was going to smash him. Looking back, I was too inexperienced to go with someone like that anyway. He was an ex-world champion kickboxer, had loads and loads of fights, and I absolutely battered him for 2 rounds. Absolutely battered him. I just come winging in, swaying away. But I got back at the end of the 2nd round. I remember sitting down in the corner and going, I was knackered. I was absolutely knackered. And he caught me in the 3rd round, and it was just my world had been crushed. I started believing the hype. I started believing other people. I remember going back to my friend's house. I wouldn't talk to anyone. I wouldn't talk to my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. I just didn't want to. I was just smoking blow. The boys were great with me and stuff like that, and give me a couple of jibs and stuff like that. But they were tidy boys, and I just didn't want to talk to anyone. I don't think I talked to anyone for 2 weeks. Didn't go out, didn't go anywhere. But then I realised myself, I could not do what I was doing and expect to get away with it. So that was pretty much the turning point for me.
So from that moment then, were you more invested into training? Did you have more of a plan that was sort of going forwards with your career?
Wouldn't go out. I just wouldn't go out. For 6 or 8 weeks before the fight, you will not see me out. And I pretty much didn't go out after that much anyway, because my first 4 fights, it was literally, I get paid everyone again like £1,500. I'd blow on a week, just take me and my mate, go out drinking, and we just drink all week, just living the life and stuff like that. And then it got up to £2,000, 2,500, and I just blow it a week or two, and I had no sense whatsoever. But I stopped going out, and I had a couple of fights on a week's notice. I'll get into one after now, which I had like 2 days' notice. So I was always ready. I always knew to be ready. Something could happen, and it did. And if I wasn't ready, I'd get found out again. So I was always ready.
So now looking to when you started getting the title fights and stepping up in fights, just talk to me about that time in your life, because that's when things are getting serious and you're starting to achieve stuff.
Well, something not a lot of people know, but when I was boxing, I was very short-sighted. I used to have, I won't mention who it was, because he might get in trouble, but I used to have someone go in the eye test before me, memorise down to a certain level. I go in, I go, I do it, no problem at all, get on with it. One year we done it, and I said AOFPHT or something like that, it was VOTH, and he said, it's wrong. I said, no, it's not, that's right. He said, it's wrong. He said, do it again. So I done it again. He said, the numbers. So we changed the board. So I got sound out. So at the age of 21, I think, I had to make a decision. I wouldn't pass a license again. I failed the license. So at the age of 21, I had to have laser surgery. And I weren't actually allowed to have it that young, but they did tell me within 10 years' time I'd have to have it done again, and exactly 10 years' time I had to have it done again. But I had the laser surgery because I literally could not see. If I was standing opposite someone in the ring, I wouldn't see the name of his shorts. I struggled to actually see them. I was that short-sighted.
Had that always been a thing?
From school. But I was one of the kids, I had the reputation, Enzo's tough on that. For me, sort of a bit of a nerd wearing glasses. So I'd sit at the back of the class and I'd just copy the boy next to me when he's writing off the board. So I always knew, but it started getting worse when I was having headaches because I would not put these glasses on. But literally, when I was training, I remember fighting Chris Wallace. I think it was my first fight back after the Swabie, and my brother went, you do him, he's fat so-and-so. He said, I said, where is he? I can't see him. I could not see that far. It was bad. So I had the surgery. I got back in the ring about 2 months later. I boxed Valerie Shemisker, who just went the distance with Mark Hobson, who went on to be British champion. We were rivals from the start. I blew him away in first round. And then they offered me Bruce Scott. So we trained hard. I was watching Bruce Scott's videos. I was still 22 years of age. He was a 3-time world title challenger. He was the current British and Commonwealth champion. So I was 22. I was fighting the British and Commonwealth champion, a 3-time world title challenger. And it was just an amazing experience. We were at the CIA. I was on the undercard of Kazagi. And I remember going to the corner in the change room, and I put the Mexican raised gloves on for the first time, and I could feel my knuckles through the gloves, and I always known I'm a big puncher, and I thought, I can't wait to smash someone with these. And my brother said, you got them on as well, didn't you? So we got in the ring. He dropped me in the first 30 seconds, caught me behind the ear. I was a bit tentative, got myself back into the fight, hurt him in the second, hurt him in the third, and then I won spark cold in the 4th round, and from that I had knockout of the year, plus I had the Boxing Writer's Best Young Boxer of the Year award, which meant so much to me.
You mentioned there you were on the undercard of Kawasaki. Is that when the sort of relationship with him had started? Did you already know of him?
I obviously knew of him. I knew his father. I boxed all my amateur life with Bradley Price, Gavin Rees, Byron Price. So I've known Enzo. I've known, we boxed away tournaments together. I think so. But obviously I knew Joe. But that was the first time I actually spoke to Joe properly. And he got dropped that day as well against Byron Mitchell. I think it was Byron Mitchell he boxed. And obviously I got put down by Bruce Scott. And I think people have seen then the amount of crowd that I would bring as well, because I was always exciting. I think I sold about 2,000 tickets myself to cover up the rival territory in Cardiff, and it was just an amazing experience.
Then from there, you obviously stepping up. Talk about you winning your world title. That sort of stage of your career, were you? Had you ever thought that's where you would get to? Was that your goal, to become world champion, or did it just sort of go with the momentum?
That's all I ever wanted. I never boxed for money. I never boxed for fame. I didn't box for nothing. I just wanted to fight, and I wanted to be a world champion. That's all I did. I'd never changed. I've always been the same, and I always will be the same. But we had an opportunity to fight a guy called Marcelo Dominguez, and it was at the Principality Stadium, Millennium Stadium at the time. It was during the World Cup 2006, and I watched videos of this Dominguez. I very rarely watch videos, and first time I ever looked at him, I shit myself. He was such an hard man. He's a former 2-time WBC world champion, had a reputation of the toughest chin in world boxing, just an absolute animal. The fight before me, He's 5'11". He boxed Nicholas Valuev, who's 7'2". So you give away 9 stone and a foot in height, and still give him a hell of a fight. So the first time in my life, I actually shit myself, and I trained so hard. And I remember 2 days before the fight, Enzo Maccarinelli was just bonkers training. So 2 days before the fight, we'd done 12 rounds on the pads. We'd done sprints outside the gym, the rugby field, done burpees and other things. And I remember on the night, my legs were in pieces. I remember walking up the steps. I think you can actually see me stumbling going up the steps. My legs were in absolute agony. But whatever Enzo used to do with us, he done it for a reason. And in that fight, it was the hardest fight I've ever had, the toughest man. I've literally, whoever I hit from a young age, if I hit someone clean, they're gone. I don't care who they are, they're gone. I hit him in the 3rd round with the best right hand I've ever thrown in my life. He looked at me, he said, "Good shot." I remember thinking, should I ask Enzo to chuck the towel in? That was the first time ever someone's took something like that off me. So he ended up, brilliant fight. And I actually did knock him out in the 9th round. Won my world title in my home country. I say rival territory, Cardiff. With the boxing, it's different. I get just as many Cardiff fans as Swansea fans. They all mix in together, and it was just unbelievable. But people think that was my crowning night. My crowning night was that, but it was actually to see my dad's face that his boy has just won a world title. That meant more to me than actually winning myself. It's just a strange feeling.
You mentioned Enzo Maccarinelli there in your corner. Just talk through the process of the sort of change in training, going to that camp and having him sort of in your corner, and just that whole experience. Going from watching them headlining as a team, and then you being part of that. I had to make a decision. I boxed Mark Hobson, and I didn't know enough about weight manipulation with the water and stuff like that. And I remember he was the British and Commonwealth champion, but it was my WBO on the line, not the British and Commonwealth. And we went to the weigh-in, and I always weighed 14 stone 4 limit. I always used to weigh over 13, 11, 13, 12. I was always small for a cruiser, but obviously I was very strong. He weighed in 14 stone 3/3, but he looked dead to the world. He looked like an AIDS victim. And I remember phoning my brother. He said, "What's he look like?" He said, I said, "I'll rip him in half. I'll fold him in half." He got in the ring the next night. I remember thinking, fucking hell, there's a difference. It was just a totally different person in that gym, in that ring. And I struggled. And it was a hard fight. And I looking back, and I was training with Charlie, and it was sort of, some days he'd say to me, "Oh, what are we going to do today?" And I'm thinking, well, you should be telling me what I'm doing. Like I've always found out I'm told what to do. I don't want to tell you what I want to do. I want to be told what to do. So I spoke to my dad, and he phoned Enzo, and he said, "Yeah, bring him up." And I went up there, but I've always been fit, I've always been strong, but he had a reputation of just going to the next level. And I remember the first day we trained, and I drove home in the car, and my brother phoned me. He said, "How did it go?" And I said, "Well, it was easy enough." I said, "I was all right." So the next day we came, he must have been taking it easy with me, because the next day I literally had to pull over in the car. My arms were so tight I could not turn the wheel. I had to pull over for half hour break on the way home in the car. But he was mad. He was mad. He used to get a little something out of you extra. I like to think I was that close to him all that. I was like a second son to him. Me and Joe were like brothers. Really just got on well, and he was just bonkers. Some of the training you do, it's like, people train in the morning, train in the afternoon. We would do some days just 3-4 hour session, but that's all you do. You do, like me and Joe would do like a 6 mile run up the hill, up this hill, come back, we do 12 round sparring. I do 6 on the bags, he do 6 on the pads, then we'd swap over, then we do sprints outside. It just absolutely ruin every day, and the next day we'd have to be there again. He was just bonkers, but what a great guy. Yeah, and the late Enzo Maccarinelli now, but we all know what he's achieved in terms of with his fighters from a trainer that wasn't experienced. He got into it, because he was training Joe, and just how sort of important and proud are you to be part of that and his legacy?
Oh, massively proud. Like I said, I got on well with all of them. I like to think Enzo was I was like another son to him. We really got on well. We had some great stories. And, you know, at that time, it was Bradley Price, Gavin Rees world champion, me world champion, Kazagi world champion. You had Kerry York, Nathan Cleverly, future world champion, Kerry York, future European champion. I don't think he would ever have another gym like that at Wales. So it was a great era for Welsh boxing, but you know it was run by the master, but he was a nutcase.
So the fact that you know you trained with Enzo Kawasaki and you sort of were around such a top gym stable, the fact that you're a trainer and a coach now, have you taken stuff that you've learned from what he did and stuff you'd maybe never seen before and brought it to your
Of course, you know, I've had some good trainers over here. My dad, Enzo Kawasaki, and Gary Lockett. So I've taken a little something off of all of them. You know, I speak to Gary now and again. He speaks to me if he needs a bit of advice. Or, you know, we just get on so well. So yeah, I take little things. I pinch stuff off them and little bits and bobs, and it can all help because it all worked for me. It was just you know, it was a lot of things I'd done wrong in my career, but there was a lot of things I'd done right as well. So I'll weigh up the good, I'll weigh up the bad, but I'll make sure my boys will all get the good.
So going back to world champion, what was it like around that time? You know, you were world champion. Did you feel you achieved what you wanted to? Did you still want to achieve more? Were you feeling pressure that you were world champion? What was the sort of mindset around that time in your career?
Just wanted more. That's all it was. I just wanted more. Like I said, I just love to fight. I think Frank Warren's gone on record and said I'm the only fighter he's ever had who never turned anyone down. He even tried to put me off fights. And you know, we could speak about that later on, but he actually tried to put me off fights and I wouldn't, because it's just I didn't see the point. I didn't see the point. I didn't ask for extra money. I should have, and looking back, no wonder he liked me so much. It never caused him no problems. I didn't ask for no extra money. I just literally wanted a fight, and you know, me and Frank just really got on well. So it was like I just wanted more, and he knew what I wanted. And again, I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about nothing. I just wanted to be in good fights. I wanted to fight the way I wanted to fight. You know, people try to change me because it's strange because in the gym I was quite slick. Believe it or not, I was quite slick. I was up my toes, won't get caught. But something come over me on fight night where I knew I had God-given power. I knew the crowd loved seeing blood, and that's what I was. So you know, it was, like I said, a lot of good things I've done, a lot of bad things I've done.
So you mentioned Frank Warren there, you know, being signed to him, getting the big shows, having a lot of them in Wales. What was that experience like? You say, you know, you didn't turn down a fight. What kind of fights was he maybe saying you shouldn't take?
It was a couple, and he literally, whatever he got offered, he told me. He told me everything, and like I said, we really got on well. I went to Vegas once with Joe, and I got approached by a couple of promoters, and they offered me a lot more money than Frank, and obviously it was tempting. And I phoned my dad, and he said, "Are you happy with Frank?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "We'll stay with Frank then." And Frank found out that I got approached. I never told him, so I think he realised how loyal I am. But he told me everything, and I remember once we had. He phoned me up 3 weeks ago. He said, "Can you meet me in the Landmark Hotel in London?" I said, "Yeah." So they paid for my train to go up and things like that. So I got the train, got at the Landmark Hotel. He said, "Right." He said, "We've had an offer for a tournament." I think it was prize fight, I think. But the winner would have, I think it was about 35 grand for the win. But they were offering me 30 grand just to enter. Because I was world champion, but I still had the name and things like that. So they offered me 30 grand to enter, 35 grand for the win, and then there was another 10 or 15 grand per knockout. So there were 3 fights one night, so it was like 100 grand. Or I got offered a European title fight in Russia for the European title against Alexander Kotlebey, and he was a bit of a killer, knocking everyone out. So I'm in Russia, fighting a killer, and they've offered me 20 grand. So I said, I'll take Russia. He said, "What, are you mad?" He said, "This is an easy night for you." He said, "We'll get this again." I said, "Well, no, this is what I'm all about. You know, this is what I want. This is what I'm all about." And it was like, he thought, I remember phoning me. He said, "Who's you are?" I said, "Yeah, I want that fight in Russia." He said, and he actually said, "You fucking bonkers." So we went there, and it was only 3 weeks' notice as well. So I thought, right, don't worry, so I started training. I didn't have a trainer at the time. I was on my own. I literally trained for a European title fight in here on my own, no trainer, stopwatch on the floor. Went up to London to do a day sparring with Chisora. That's the only sparring I had. Went over to Russia. Got to St. Petersburg, I think it was, and when the press conference, they said, "Oh, he's this, he's that." I said, "I will knock him out first round." And I had two Welsh officials with me, Mark Warner and Ron Pavett, who's still with the board. And he said, "You can't go say." I said, "I'll knock him out first round." And they said, "Oh, you knock him out first round." I said, "No, trust me." I said, "I will spark him first round." And after the weigh-in, we weighed in. They must have thought I was starving with the weight, so they kept me hanging around with no food there, no restaurants, nothing. I was there for 5 hours. Get home, had some food when I got back, got the arena, and it was mad because as I was walking out to the ring, there was a girl, and she had an English flag, and she tried to drape it on me. I said, "What's that for?" She said, "Oh, I said, I'm not English, I'm Welsh." She said, "You have to wear it." I said, "I'm not English, I'm Welsh." I said, "I lose all my fans."
Yeah.
And I just, no Welsh, no Englishman would put a Welsh flag on. You know, don't get me wrong, if I was part English, fair enough, I wouldn't mind. If you give me an Italian flag, I wouldn't have minded. But I said, "I'm not wearing it." She said, "Right." She said, "We'll have to speak to the promoter, he'll pull you out." He said, "Pull me out then." I said, "I'm not wearing an English flag." So everything got sorted, obviously. So we got in the ring, and it was complete quiet. He came in, a bit of uproar, and I knocked him out first round. I won a European title in St. Petersburg in the first round. And I remember looking up, and I didn't notice at first, and there was two in the Olympic, it was an Olympic ice rink. It was like two cardboard cutouts, about 50 foot high, in gladiator uniforms. From top of the head was his head and my head. So if I could have taken one of them, I'd have been landed.
Was that throughout the career the goal that it wasn't about, you say it wasn't about money? Were you just wanting to create a legacy, get all the titles you could? What was the sort of, you achieved that, you got the win, you got the first round knockout, but for having achieved world champion, European champion, were you then thinking, okay, maybe I'll take the prize fighter stuff, maybe I'll take this, or was it still just, no, I can achieve more?
No, it was just whatever Frank offered me. Whatever Frank offered me, I'd say yes or no, and I never said no. It was like when I won a European title fight, I was supposed to fight the number one contender for the European was Alexander Frankel. Alexander Frankel was an absolute killer of a man. I think he had 28 fights, 28 wins, 27 knockouts, 25 in the first round. So Frank said, "Look, we'll sidestep it." I said, "Oh, what's this sidestepping?" He said, "No, he's an absolute killer. No one wants to fight." And he didn't. No one wanted to fight him. He was sort of higher regarded than the Kovalev. He was that sort of level. And I said, "I'm not ducking no one. I'll go in there and I'll smash him." And I watched his videos, and he was devastating. But I didn't care. I said, "I will smash him." So we went out to Birmingham, and I fought him. It was a big show. I battered him. I absolutely battered him. And I tore him apart. And I remember, I think it was the 6th round, I think I got caught in the 7th, but I think it was the 6th round. And Carl Ince was helping me in the corner, and Carl Ince was a friend. But he didn't train me, no one trained me, I trained myself again. So I'm fighting this killer, I've trained myself on no sparring, on a stopwatch, on a bag, on my own, very self-motivated. And I remember sitting down in the corner, and I think I looked over him, and Carl Ince said, "Look, Enz, he's ready to go." And I looked at him, he's black and blue. I battered him. I barely had a mark on me, so I just literally went for him from start to finish. And he said, "Look at him, he's ready to go. Stick that jab in his face, and he's ready to go." Yeah. Now in my mind is, no, I want this highlight reel finish. So I went in there, and I've gone for him, I've wobbled him, and I've hit him in the right hand, I've thrown another right hand, and there's a picture of him, he shuts his eyes, and he's gone bang, and he's caught me. And he's one of the most devastating hitters in the world boxing. He caught me, I'd gone down, and I got up, And the ref said, "Can you fight?" I went, "Yeah." I couldn't pick my hands up. So he gave a free shot at me. And, you know, the biggest punch in world boxing at the time had a free shot at me, as someone who's gone anyway. So I went down, the ambulance and the paramedics come in and stuff like that, and you could see me on the floor swinging my arms and like, "Don't be brave," because he was trying to put the mask on me. I said, "I'm fucking brave." I said, "My mouth full of blood." So I couldn't think. So he took me back to the changing room. My jaw was hanging off. I sort of dislocated my jaw, so it was hanging to one side. And we were in there, and Alexander Frankel come in, and he looked at me, he's black and blue. He went, "Oh, I'm sorry." He knew he got lucky. He said, I said, "I would have done it to you." So I was, even after that loss, now I've just been knocked out. I've had paramedics. It was a nasty, if you watch this, it's a nasty finish. I was walking out and they wanted the drug testing. And I said, I got to go to the hospital because my wife was going to drive me back from Birmingham to Swansea. I didn't want to be stuck in the hospital in Birmingham. I'd rather get back to Swansea. And they said, "Oh, you have to." I said, "Well, I got to get back." So as I walked out the door, and I said, "If I walk away, what will happen?" He said, "You'll get banned and never box again." Even then, I still wanted to fight again. So I stayed behind for hours and to have the piss test, and then finally got back to Swansea in hospital.
Would you say that was the worst sort of knockout you remember?
It was the worst one, yeah, but I don't regret it because it was my fault. There's a couple of fights I really regret. Certain things, David Haye fight, the Lebedev fight, I really regret for things. But if it's something through my own fault, I don't regret it. I should have boxed different. I should have listened, but I didn't have. Carl, although I like Carl, he didn't train me, so I just wanted to do things myself. If it was Enzo Maccarinelli training or Guy trained me, because they trained me, I would have listened. But because he didn't, I didn't listen. So I don't regret it. You know, I went to win. I went for the finish. That's made me who I was. I've always wanted to finish. I always wanted to. Be an entertainer rather than anything else. I wanted, if you were coming to watch me, I want you to go back with your boyfriend or whatever and say, "Fucking hell, that Enzo entertains." That's all I wanted. So I don't regret it. Only two I regret, but I don't regret that one.
Well, we'll talk about the David Haye fight in a minute, but we have to. But you mentioned obviously, you know, you were training with no coach, no trainer. How long, what was the reason for that, and how long did that sort of go on for?
It was a long story because I think Joe was going through a court case with Frank. So obviously Enzo was with his son, and he kept not turning up one day, not turning up another day, phoning me another day, can't go on. So I thought, I'd just get on with myself. And like I said, I'm very self-motivated. I knew what I could do. I knew how tough I was. And, you know, and I look back at some of the big fights I've had, won and lost, that I trained myself. I'm thinking, how good could I have been if I actually listened to people? But you know, it's part of life, and you know, I got on with it. I shouldn't have, but I done it, and I sort of regret looking back. But the way I fought, I never regret it.
From after that, did you then go to Gary Lockett?
Was that the fight I went to Gary? No, I went to the fight. I went to box with Gary after I boxed McPhilbin for the British title. That was probably, I do regret that for going in the ring, but it sort of, it's hard to explain. It's probably the worst ever performance. That's the worst I've ever, as fit and strong as I was, that's the worst I've ever. That's the only time in my life that I got in the ring and I never wanted to be there. And looking back now, how horrible it was.
Why did you not want to be there?
I lost my dad 3 weeks before. My dad was my biggest fan, and a week before I boxed, 2 weeks before I boxed in Cardiff, Frank done a 10 bells for my dad and stuff like that, and I boxed a journeyman, and then I boxed a British champion who wasn't great. And I was fit, I was strong, I still trained myself again. I had no one in the corner, so Dean Powell helped me in the corner, and I got in there. I think I weighed about 13 stone 6. He's weighing about 14.4, so the weight limits are just. I was light heavyweight at the time, but I just moved up. I couldn't get it, and he caught me in the first round. He put me down, and then he caught me in the third round, and he put me down. And the first time, the bell sounded early, and people always say, "It saved me." It didn't save me at all, because I was on my knee. I knew where I was. It wasn't like some of the other knockdowns I've had before, where I try to get up too quick and I'm all over the place. It was one where I took my knee, I was watching a ref count, but he got the 4, and I remember thinking, I'm just going to stay here. I sort of quit. In my mind, I quit. And you know that scene from Rocky when he says, get up, you son of a bitch, Mickey loves you. It was sort of like my dad saying, what the fuck are you doing? Get up and fight. And I got up, and the bell sounded early. People think it didn't save me. I was all right. I had all my faculties. I sat back in the corner. And I remember Dean Powell said, your dad's going fucking mental up there watching this. So that kicked me into gear. So I went on and I won the rest of the fight. I won every single round. Now I weighed 13.6. I'd lost my dad. I had problems with my son as well. We were looking into something. And I won the fight. I won a British title. I weighed 13.6. I've lost my dad. I had other things going on. And I just didn't want to be there. And I just won a British title. And I remember walking out. And I had the belt on my shoulder. And I sort of just down in the dumps. Even though I won, I'm just down in the dumps. And I remember walking out. And some guy stopped. And he said, Enzo, you're a fucking hard man. He said, you're a tough. He said, your dad'd be so proud. And I stopped. And I turned around and I said, he fucking wouldn't have been. I said, he'd have killed me. For that performance, he was absolutely killed me. I won that British title. I boxed terrible. No one seen me for a month. I didn't leave my house for a month. Even though I won, because I was so bad, I just didn't leave my house.
So was it that point then that you then looked to train and Gary Lockett?
Yeah, I spoke to Gary. Dean Powell phoned Gary and stuff like that. And because of the way I boxed against my film, people thought I was finished. And it was... Gary was a bit thing about taking me on. Even though we've known each other for years, really good friends for years, he was a bit thing about taking me on. But I phoned him up and he said, we've done a bit of pad session, come down, done me a bit of sparring. He said, fuck. He said, you're not finished at all, are you? I said, no. And I told him the problems I had and things like that. And the good thing about what I liked with Gary is he would try to give me a plan. And if I didn't agree with it, I'd tell him. And he said, but this is, and I'll tell him again, no, I don't want to. He'll come up with something else which just suited me. And we really got on well. And Gary used to hate the fact that in the gym I was so slick, so good. But on fight night I just lose control completely and just go for a finish. But if I could box like I would in the gym, I'd be something special.
You would have probably had a few easier nights.
Oh, much easier night. I just loved the fight. It was just mad. It was just, we'll get on Mackenzie in a minute as well. I just actually loved the fight.
Well, yeah, talk about that now.
Well, the first fight with Mackenzie, and we trained. I think it was my first time making weight for a title at light heavyweight. So I messed the weight up. I done it all right, but I messed the weight up. I come in 12 stone 5. I was absolutely shredded, but I didn't look good in the face. But I didn't struggle. I didn't stop eating for days and stop drinking for days. I'd done it properly, and we got there. It was at Liverpool Olympia. At the first round. I sort of just moved around, let him catch me as blocking shots. And I hit him at the end of the first round with a body shot. And I remember him thinking, I thought, oh, it's done. So in the second, come back in the corner, Gary said, look, he's finished, guy. I said, he hasn't got long left, this is gone. So I think he thought it was an easy night and they sort of didn't prepare me properly. And he come out and he hit me with a right hand and I blocked it and I went on a corner, I went on the ropes and he threw 4 shots and I went bump and he watched me, I go like that. So as he finished the 4th shot, he went, I thought, oh, another 2 shots, so he's done, he shot his load, he's finished. Next thing, a ref jumps in and stops the fight. So, and I'm like at the referee, and the referee, Ian John Lewis, he looked at me and he said, sorry. He knew he made a mistake. And the year I had with my dad, my son and other things, I wasn't even annoyed. It was just like, just my year, it was like such a bad year and it just topped my year off. But the next day I was fuming. I was absolutely fuming. So I phoned Dean Powell and I said, look, Dean, I want that again. He said, look, you haven't got. I said, look, I have. Trust me. I said, I am. He said, you haven't got. I said, trust me, I have. So it got me a fight with Carl Wilde. It was about, I think it was April. It was the night before my daughter's birthday. Yeah, April 19th. So I boxed up in London. I boxed with Carl Wilde, journeyman. I was awful. I was absolutely awful. Didn't come close to losing, but I was awful. I remember stopping him in the 6th round with a body shot, and I won. And I remember my brother phoning me the next day. We were going on holiday, and my brother phoned me. He said, "Have you watched the fight?" I said, "No." He said, "Don't." He said, "He was shit." I said, "I went up." He said, "He was shit." My brother, my father, my wife, everyone kept me grounded, told me the straight. He said, "He was shit." And I said, "No, I'd be all right." So Dean Powell phoned me. He said, "Look, we're not going to get the rematch with Orville." He said, "You know, you should." I said, "Look, you get me something that I want. You get me something that I'm motivated for." I said, "I'll show you." So we come into the corner, and I come back to the gym after the holiday, and Gary said, "Look, the fight's August the 17th, I think it was." He said, "This is the plan." So we've done a plan. Tony Bell, who showed the blueprint of beating Enzo Maccarinelli on his toes, boxing. First fight he struggled, second fight he boxed on his toes. I said, "Gar, I don't want to." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I don't want to. I don't want to box like that." He said, "Enzo, you're so good, you could do that quite easy." I said, "I don't want to." I said, "He thinks he's stronger than me. He thinks he's tougher than me. He's not." I go straight at him. He said, "Enzo." I said, "Gar, I'm all right." So we went there, we trained hard, and that's what happened. I hit him head on. It was a tremendous fight. The crowd were one of the best crowds I've ever heard on, like in the Motorpoint Arena, and I ended up hitting him with the left uppercut in the 11th round. It was ahead on points, but I hit him with the left uppercut in the 11th round, and he was out cold on his feet. He was sort of just demobilised, and that was probably one of my best wins as well, because everyone ripped me off.
Yeah, in terms of your sort of best memory from your boxing career, what would you say it is? I presume most people who win world titles would say winning the world title, but what is it for you?
I told you earlier, it was seeing my dad's face win the world title. It was just, I was so close. He was my best mate. He wanted that more than I wanted it. And for him to be vindicated by telling everyone I got slagged off for years, he won't be good enough, he's not experienced enough, he hasn't got enough amateur background. I heard it all. But I knew, but my father knew more. So that was probably one. But all the others, Russia, I was against it, against Russia. I was totally against it. I was up against it. I'd written off, smashed him in a round. Mackenzie, he was going to bat me, he was going to do this, he was going to do that. I smashed him. So, everything's got the little meanings. Like.
So just looking now from that to the not so good moments, we're going to talk about the David Haye fight, losing the world title. What are your memories and feelings of that fight now?
Right, I very rarely say this, right, because it looks like an excuse, and it is an excuse, but I trained so hard for that fight. Frank offered me the fight. We were supposed to fight before. He offered me the fight. I said yes straight away. I could. I won't say we offered, but I could have doubled it, and then we would have met somewhere in between. Yeah, no problem at all. And Enzo Maccarinelli, get more. No, I want to fight him. That's all I wanted. He was the best. I was the second best. I beat Braithwaite. He beat Mormack. So we were there. We didn't have to fight each other. We both wanted to fight each other. And I trained like an absolute demon. I was the best I've ever trained in my life. And a week before the fight, I weighed 14 stone 3/3/4. That's the biggest I've ever been, strongest I've ever been. My arms were jacked, my shoulder. I was ready to go. I'd done a 15-round spar session at 2 o'clock in the morning, because that's what the time we were going to fight because of American TV. And I was ready to go. On a Monday, I went to the press conference in London. Done the press conference. David Haye didn't turn up, but we done it anyway, so I done a press conference. And for some reason, I come home. And why I come home, I don't know. And I think Tuesday morning I woke up and the room started spinning, and I ran to the toilet and I was sick, and I was whatever, I had something else. But cut long story short, I caught gastroenteritis. I couldn't get off the toilet for about 3 or 4 days. I went up to, I say 3 or 4 days, 2 or 3 days. I went up to London then on a Thursday for the final press conference, then weigh-in on a Friday. And if you watch the weigh-in, bear in mind now, I was 14 stone 3/3/4 the night before, the week before. I weighed in 13:10, I think it was, with a pair of tracksuit bottoms on, 2 phones in my pocket, Frank Warren's wallet, so that's £3, and I was just gone. My wife telling me don't fight, my brother telling me Enzo, pull out. I wouldn't pull out. I thought, I'll be alright tomorrow. And I got to the arena, and I jumped on a scale, so they weigh you to see what the weight is. I weighed 13.6. That's all I was weighing. I think he was in early 15 stone, so a lot of weight away. And first time in my life I ever knew I was going to lose. I knew I was going to lose from the start, and I was just having this hope where I was going to be better on the day, and everything would be all right, everything would be all right, everything would be all right. And when it didn't, I just knew. But I will not say I would have beat him on a different night, because I think he was that good. I do believe he was that good. So I'm not using an excuse that that's why I lost. Probably that's why I lost so easily. But I think he was that good, and I know speaking to him as well, he said that's the best he's ever been. So he's the best he's ever been, and I'm the worst I've ever been. So that is one of the biggest regrets of my life. Not because I lost, because it wasn't 100%, wasn't even 50% me. So if it was one fight, people say if it's one fight you could have changed or different, I would have liked to have had it on a different night, because he was the better man that night. But I can never ever say he was the better man, because I don't know if he was better than the best of me.
That fight, not the best memories of it. But you said, you two wanted to fight each other. That was what the fight you wanted. There was a few other fights in your career that you wanted. One that was sort of notable, which never happened, was Nathan Cleverly. That fight.
To be honest, we were friends. And I made a decision to come down to light heavyweight. I remember seeing him in the Welsh Championships. I had boys in the championships. I was cornering them, and I remember seeing Nathan. And I said to Nathan, I said, look, we're friends. I said, I'm not coming after you. I don't want to fight you. If it comes to a point that we can make a lot of money, we shake hands before, we shake hands after, and end the story. I've always been respectful, always have been. Next thing I heard his father telling people, Nathan's going to smash Enzo, Nathan's going to do this, Nathan's going to do that. I said then, so I remember doing an interview with Coogan, I said, I'll punch his fucking face in when I see him, because I can't stand that. I can't stand. If you're going to be disrespectful, be it to someone's face. Don't do it behind their back. So it really gripped me. And I remember they offered him, he reckons no, but if we speak of Francis Warren, they offered him twice to fight, and he turned it down twice. And I never wanted to fight him, but it got to the point where, from me helping him as a young kid and things like that, and see him coming through and proud of him, to see him the way he turned, that's something I didn't like.
That fight never materialised. It would have been, I think, more from the fans wanted that fight, an all Welsh affair. In terms of later on in your career, there was a lot of talk, I don't know whether it was from you, of that you'd retired, then you came back. What was that based on? Had you retired and then made a comeback, or had you not decided?
No, I never. After my last loss, I thought, I wanted to come back. I trained, I got myself fit, I've got my levels back, and I think it was about 4 years after, I thought, I still got it. So I went up to London, done a bit of sparring, handled myself easy. I sparred a couple of boys in Cruiser. I won't mention no names because it's not nice for them, but some top boys, and it was quite comfortable for me, for being out ring for so long. It was quite comfortable, and I was ready to go. And I caught COVID. And COVID wasn't that bad. I was still training the guys, stuff like that, but it brought something out hereditary in me, which I can still fight, but I thought to myself, what's more important, my health or fighting again? As much as I want to fight, I've got to have a different agenda now, and maybe one of these kids I can turn into a world champion, or just turn into fine young adults, boy or girl. That's sort of what keeps me going at the moment. I'd love to fight again. I still would. I still train every day. I still hit the heights, the levels I used to. But no, time is done, and you let other people come through.
You retired in 2016, I think it was. What was that like, to finally make the decision? You said you still had a bit, but how did it come about?
It just because of the COVID. Just COVID. I wanted to.
So even from 2016 to when COVID happened, you still were intentions?
I sort of went off for a couple of years, and but I always kept fit and stuff like that. And I'd done a bit of sparring. I was up here with the boys. I had some good kids up here, and I was doing like 15, 20 round sparring with all the different boys. So my fitness levels were good and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, well, if I'm gonna do it, I'll do it now. So I started getting a bug again and things like that. And like I said, I sit down some days and I think, I watch someone and I think, oh, what an easy night's work and things like that. But then you realise if time has come, father time catches up with you anyway. Even though I like to think I'm brilliant in the gym, it's different from getting punched in the head.
So now, can you safely say you are retired?
Yeah, I retired. I got no interest, no exhibitions, nothing at all. I'm just not interested. It's hard to explain to people because I'm up this gym and I see these kids, and these kids got bad problems. They don't talk to anyone. They're shy. They got confidence problems. To see them come out to themselves is just amazing for me. Just to think I've had a hand in that. Like this one kid, he's sort of down in the dumps. He's lost 3.5 stone in a year, just from training and I wouldn't like to say it's me, but I will show them the door they got to enter. And to see these kids changing their lives around means just as much to me as any title I've ever won.
Yeah, because you are a trainer and a coach now, and training adults, kids. What are you training? Any pros, amateurs?
I'm training a pro at the moment. You've asked me, so I'm doing a little bits and bobs. I will get a license because I think I got a lot of knowledge to pass on, especially to the pros. So yeah, I will get my license. I will help. The boy out, Christian Tools. I got a super heavyweight in the gym, Richie. He wants to turn pro. He's asked me. He's very good. So I will get my license and see how it goes.
You're also doing some punditry, commentary as well?
Well, I do a little bit, and whenever I work on the commentary and work on the punditry, everyone just says Enzo's the best commentator. He knows his stuff, he breaks it down so well, but just no one asks me. Either it's the accent or I tell the truth too much.
Is it important for you not competing in boxing anymore? Your whole life is boxing, that you're still heavily involved as you are?
Yeah, I love the sport. I never will. My love for it will never go away. I absolutely adore the sport, but I have got a competitive nature. So when my boys fight, I'm competitive with them as well. But with me, as long as they give me their best and give me the 100%, I can't ask for no more from them, and they all do. So for me going forward, I've got to find something to be competitive at again. I used to do a lot of jiu-jitsu when I was younger. I actually competed. I defended my world title on a Saturday night against Wayne Braithwaite, and on a Sunday I was in a Bristol Open in a gi competition, jiu-jitsu. I had slam of the day. I wasn't much good at the time, but I was strong and fit, so I might go back to that. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the competitiveness of that. So, but I got a good life. I've looked after my money. I haven't wasted it, and I've got a lot of things to do where I thought boxing at one point was all I had to do, but I have got other things to do.
Yeah, you're quite sort of outspoken about the sort of mental health, keeping good mental health, and maybe a lot of ex-boxers struggle with that. Do you feel like that's an avenue you want to sort of go down to help people?
Yeah, not so much with the boxing. I had a young kid, William Hughes. He's my little protege. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Fantastic fighter. Yeah, good family, well-off family, but a good family. He was an actor in Deadwood, good rugby player, straight A student. I sent him up. He went to Cotter University in London, so I'd gone to the Retton Boxing Club, and they said, "Oh look, we'll see how good he is." They phoned me after. They said, "Look, he's good, isn't he?" So he was a brilliant young kid, and he told me everything. He told me when he was 15, told me his first time with a girl. I remember my wife saying, "Who's that?" I says, "Well, he can't tell you." I said, "Well, he can't tell his father, and he's telling me." So he told me everything, any problems he had, but it was something he couldn't tell me. And he was on holiday, and he sent a video to the boys the day before of some girl dancing for him on a boat, as young boys do, living their life. And the next day, I had a phone call. He took his own life, and that wrecked me. So, and I obviously I think about it every day, and I didn't really get into the mental health side of things, but I think about it every day. But I make sure all the boys in the gym know, they can tell me where there's problems with sexuality, money, anything. They can tell me, they won't go no further. But I done a video up Kilvale, and I'll show you after where it is. And we got to the top, and I hadn't done it for a while, and I just said, joking about, moral of the story, if you want to feel good about yourselves, stop being a pussy, get a spoonful of cement down your hard and the fuck up, get out, get some work done, and feel good. And I just thought it was a bit of a joke. So the next day I had a couple of couple of messages, bad messages, saying you can't call people with mental health pussies. And I thought to myself, too much pussyfooting around. When I was younger, I was told straight, you want to get better, you've got to do it yourself. So I went along that route. But I had loads of boys in thinking, oh, I love that, and that's why I am. Being a pussy, I don't want to train. Now I'm going to go out and do some training. So I done one the next day, just carried on with it, and I was having messages and Enzo saved my life and stuff like that. I started doing. I think I done one every single day through lockdown. Just something different. Whether it was in my garage, whether it was on a run. I done something every day, and the amount of messages I have, which I don't need. I don't need to be praised. I don't need to be thanked. I'm not one of them people. I couldn't care less about having anything back for myself. But it does make you feel great. Seeing these people changing life around through fitness, which is you do a lot of fitness as well as you know the benefits of the fitness. I do myself. When I went fighting, I'm an animal fighting again. At least I was up doing the gym and stuff like that. I was feeling good, and I seen the kids come. So I try to do something every day. It's hard for me to do it every day. I don't need to hold people's hands every day, but little nudge, little kick up the ass each morning or every other morning sort of gets people going. And I think a lot of people, how do I put it? A lot of people don't get better, or don't feel better because they feel sorry for themselves, and they think other people are going to help them, and they think you can give you problems up to the world, and if something's going to sort out, nothing's going to get sorted out unless you get out and do it yourself. You're not going to achieve nothing unless you go out and get it yourself. You are the master of your own destiny. So if I can give people a kick up the ass, I'm happy.
Very true. And we see it on Twitter. You're very vocal about it on Twitter. Yeah, you are very straight to the point.
Got to be.
So in terms of your sort of legacy in boxing, you're not finished because you're doing all your coaching. How do you want to be remembered in terms of your boxing, and how would you want to be remembered in terms of your coaching?
Coaching, be a bit of a master, look after these boys, make sure you're a proper coach, teach them well, teach them the basics, make sure they're well drilled, make sure that I'm more than a teacher to them. That's what I want. I want to be more than a teacher, and a proper coach is more than a coach to the fighters. It's the way it is. But as a fighter, just someone who never backed down, like my song says, won't back down. Someone who never backed down, fought to anyone, and always entertained. I was never the best. I come close to being the best, and I tried to be the best, but I'll give anyone a fight, and I'm sure I entertained them along the way as well.
You definitely did. Well, thank you for your time. It's been great catching up with you.
Thank you, Ali. Really enjoyed.
Thank you. That's all from the Boxing Social podcast today in association with Betfred. Make sure you stay up to date by liking, sharing and subscribing.